Hi everyone. Thank you to the workshop. Basically, what we will do is I will introduce Vocdoni, the project, very briefly, and like for 3-4 minutes maximum, and then I will give the floor to Marc, that is our SDK developer, who will explain more about the Vocdoni API and the SDK and how to use it. Okay, so start. So in short, basically, Vocdoni is a project that uses decentralized technologies to offer digital voting with the same attributes that verificability, integrity, censorship resistant, and privacy that we can find in any other blockchain project. That's why we decide to use blockchain and other decentralized technologies to do that. We have been mainly focused. There's some noise in the background. So basically, we focus on the Web2 world, offering this technology to the traditional organizations. And now, since 2021, we are also focused on the Web3 world. Basically, our protocol, the digital voting protocol, is a specialized L1 blockchain based on Tendermint, and it has like other components and extras. We also make use of zero-knowledge technology able to reach anonymity of the voter, but mainly this is the core of the protocol. The main function is to configure elections and process like purpose, has a specific purpose. It's scalable and fast. Currently, we can process around 800 transactions per second, mainly all of them votes. So this means that we can hold like big votes. Even we'll be able to process millions of votes in a single day. So it fills the needs of 99.9% of organizations in that sense. It has universal verifiability, so every process and vote can be audited in an open way. Also, really important, voting is gasless for the voter, so the voters can vote without the cost. It's extremely flexible. That's one of the important also attributes, as it allows from simple to quadratic voting to any other like type of voting that can be configured with the attributes that the protocol has, and that can be specified when creating an election, a vote, and has also other configurations. Like you can make the votes public as soon as someone votes, the vote is revealed, or you can encrypt the votes until the end of the process, so the results are only public when the vote finished, and also many other like configurations that you can check in the developer portal with all the documentation. We also have anonymous voting, even if the ceremony is pending, but is not supported yet in the SDK. This is important, but it will be in the near future. Other blockchain at the moment is proof of authority and will migrate soon to proof of stake. You can see here in this link, this like how the blockchain is working. It's basically a basic blockchain explorer, but focus on the purpose that this blockchain has. And now I will just explain really briefly the election flow, because Marc will explain later like all the inners of these flows with the SDK. Basically, when you want to create an election with Vocdoni protocol, you create an account, Vocdoni blockchain, so it's a native account in the blockchain, and you can use Metamask to sign any transactions regarding this. And you build a census using addresses and weights, and then this census is created in a way that is a Merkle tree. And when you create an election, you basically specify like many parameters, that they with all the difficulty abstract thanks to the SDK, and these parameters allow you to configure all the how this election will behave, like when it will start, when it end, the results are public, are encrypted, etc. Then the users, as soon as the election starts, will be able to cast their votes, and as soon as the vote ends automatically, manually, by the administrator of this election, then the results will become official, and then depending on how the recount will be made, then the results will show one results or others, and will be included in the blockchain. This is a really short presentation. Now Marc will present more in depth how all the SDK works.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Well, can you see the screen? Okay. So for this demo, what I created is just a simple project in Node.js, which will be a demo of how to use the SDK that we built in top of the new API that gives all the access to the Vocdoni protocol. And well, what I'm gonna do is just show how this SDK is used, and it's exactly what the steps that Ferran presented in the presentation of how easy it is to use this SDK. It's very similar to the Orbis SDK, which I take it a look. And well, first of all, what we need to do is to initialize the SDK, which is simple as that, as the Orbis SDK, for example, where the only mandatory parameter is the environment where we are going to create elections and use the protocol. For the moment, we are building all this. We are not ready for production, so we are using the development environment, and also we have to attach an account. So I'm gonna create an account which will be a wallet, a random wallet. Yes. To be honest, I don't know how to do it with this ID.
Maybe Control Plus.
No, it doesn't work. Already tested it. I did some tests before in order to. Yeah, I don't know. I never use it to increase the font size. Well, I will continue. If there are some questions, feel free to ask. So for creating first the SDK client, we just have to give the environment. In our case, it will be the development environment for this testing, and we are also gonna give a wallet. Well, in this case, we are using simple wallets from the Ethers library, but in a UI, which I'm gonna show later, that's simply a signer that comes from Metamask. So for now, we are gonna create a random wallet here, and initialize the SDK with this wallet. Okay, this will be the creator of the election. Okay, Next thing that we are gonna do is the creation of the account, okay? Because the account is not created in our blockchain. So first we need to just create it. And in this case, if we are in the development environment, it will give us also a certain amount of tokens, and these tokens are needed for creating an election. So for example, we have a gasless voting blockchain, but it's not gasless to create an election. We need to have some tokens. Okay, so first of all, we create the SDK client. We create an account, which we only have to do the first time. Then we will have the account created, and then the first thing we have to do is to create a census before creating the election. And we can do it by creating a plain census. In this case, there are other type of census. We have weighted census for different types of weight, or we can also use an already published census. In this case, we are gonna use a very simple one, which is the plain census, and well, we wanna have an array of participants, which will be an array of wallets. So we're gonna create an array from 5 persons, for example, and we are gonna create a wallet, a random wallet for each position of this array. And once we have, we can also we are gonna write this just to see the information of these participants. We are gonna print the address of the wallet that we generated and the private key. Okay, so here is our census of participants. For creating a census, it's just simple as create a plain census object, and then we simply add these participants. Okay, so we have the array of participants, and the only thing we have to give is the address. Okay. We could also do things like this. We could just simply add a random an address that we know from somebody, and this is still not ready, but we are planning to do something like this to simplify and not dealing with addresses. It's still not ready to be used, but it's planned in the future in order to simply create censuses. So now that we created the census, we just return it, and this census is needed for creating the election. Okay, so we are gonna need this census here, and here is the information for creating the election. We have the election object. We can describe the title, description, header, the stream URI, and we can also set a start date. If we don't set a start date, it will start as soon as possible. That means in the next block. And we also can define the end date. What it misses here, and that's why it's in red here, is the census. Okay, because we are creating an election with this data, and the people who can vote to this election are exactly the persons who will be in the census. The SDK will do all the work behind with the API in order to first create the census and then create the election and bind everything. Once we have the election data, the minimum data, which is here, All the things that can be done with the Vocdoni protocol can be defined here. This is the minimum that we have to define, minimum data. And we are gonna create a question. For example, that's a to me question. And that's a dummy description. And that's the first question. And here we are gonna define the possibly answers or the choices that we give to the user. So for example, this is yes. Yeah, which question? Sorry, I'm not looking at the screen because this information goes directly to IPFS. Okay. This data, which is the title, the description, the header, and the stream URI. But there is also another field which you can put whatever information you want. So imagine you have an UI and you can fetch this information later and print everything however you want. Okay. And there are also other options. But there are more related to doing quadratic voting, for example, or we can also create elections that which the votes from this election are hidden before the election closes, for example. There is in the Vocdoni documentation there are all the options explained there because there are many of them, and for this demo, I just wanted to put the minimum details here. Okay, so let's create the election. We have already created with this data. We have one question, and we have here the choices, yes or no, with their value. And for creating the election, just easy as call the client we just created with the create election, passing the creation we just defined it here. The create election method will return the ID of the election once it's already mined in the block. Okay. And once we have the election, we are gonna just simply set this election ID that we received, and let's fetch the data from the API directly and see what we have. Okay, so I'm gonna execute. I hope it works because I'm coding in real life, and I think it should print the participants from this census. We are gonna use them to vote after this, and the data of the election we just created. Okay, so yeah, let's start. We have here the information with the addresses and the private keys of the wallets we just created randomly, and it takes a little bit to end because we have to wait for the block to be mined in order to assure that the account is that the election is created. So what we have right now printed here is the addresses of the census that we created. I'm gonna copy them because we are gonna use it right now. Here is the information about the account that we created as a creator here. So that's the wallet that creates and has the power in this election to change things from this election. And we can see here, like we have the balance of 50 tokens before creating the election. It costs 10 tokens right now to create an election. And here is the metadata of the account, which is none because we didn't define anything here. And here is the IPFS URL where this data is stored. And here is all the information about the election we created. Okay, we created, that's the ID. That's the status, it's ready because we didn't set up a start date. So it began directly in the next block, which is now, and it's ready. And because it's a non-encrypted election, we can see the results here. So there are 0 votes because nobody voted yet. Remember that the participants that can vote are here, and we didn't vote still. And here is the information about the census that we created. If you want to look at the census that we created with these addresses, here you have the URI in IPFS. And we also have the metadata that we defined with the questions, the title, and so on, which we also have here. Okay, that's exactly what we created. And here are all the possibilities that the SDK is putting by default, but can be changed directly here. That's what you were asking before. There are a lot of things that you can configure here to do quadratic voting, for example, or we have, for example, here encrypted votes. That's, for example, for having votes encrypted until the end of the election, so nobody can know the results before it's not closed, the election, and many other options. Okay, we also have for encrypting the metadata. We have dynamic census. For example, when the election has already begun, you can add more people to the census. That could be an option, which by default is false. And many other options that I would recommend to read the documentation. And that's, for example, for doing quadratic voting and so on. So we already created the election with this ID, and we have the voters. Okay. So right now I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna declare the voters that we just saw here, and we have the address and the private key. Okay, so that's the voters, and now we are going to vote. That's the last part of the demo. Okay, so we don't need this anymore, I think, and we are going to vote directly. I'm gonna pass the ID of the election to the function vote that I created here. So we are going to vote to this election. Okay, again, we create the client with the options that I told you before. That's the development environment. We are gonna initialize the client for doing things with the election ID we define it here. So the election ID we just created, and now the wallet that we are connecting with the SDK will be, for example, the first one of the voters, okay, which has this private key. We could just simply take the private key from here, but for the moment we just use the first voter that we have, and we set this wallet to the client. Now for voting, we create with the object vote, and we will vote for the option with the value 0, which, if you remember, is the yes. Okay, so for the dummy question with dummy description, the first voter is gonna vote with yes, and it's simply as do an await for submitting the vote. This will return the vote ID, which can be used in the Explorer in order to check that our vote is correctly inserted in the blockchain. After this, we also want to see the results that we also had here about the information of the election. So we're just gonna print here the election after voting. Okay, So I think that's correct. I hope it's correct. So we are gonna start again. Remember, now we are voting. We are only voting. We are not creating anything. And here it is. As you can see, the difference is we just voted here, and as you can see, we are asking again with the information from this election. And right now the vote count is 1, and the result is for the first one, it's 1 vote. Okay. If we, for example, execute it again now using the second person, the second voter, so this one here, and for example, now instead of voting for the first option, which was the yes, now this votes for the no, and we can execute again. Remember that this takes a little bit because we have to ensure that the vote that we are submitting is mined in the block. And right now we can see again that the vote count is 2, and the result is 1 for yes and 1 for no. And so we could also be playing here with voting. And that's the coding demo. Okay, I can show also a UI that one of our team members did using exactly this code. So this is just a dummy demo to show how the SDK works. But we also have let me change the screen. I'm gonna share browser. I'm gonna execute the UI. Do you see the browser? I don't know, when I'm sharing screen, I don't know why it doesn't show the MetaMask. No,
you have to share the entire screen, not
yeah,
just
I think, but I don't know if this will work. Let me try, but I'm afraid it doesn't work. No, it will be black. So you will have to believe me when I tell that the MetaMask is opening. So we can connect with MetaMask. I'm already connected with an account here, which is this one, and I have 50 Vocdoni tokens. Okay, and that's the census that we want. In the census, I'm myself, so I'm the creator of the election, but I'm also in the census. And we can create here random wallets the same way we did before in order to create this census. Okay, so we can create the election now. Now MetaMask is opened. I'm sorry that you don't see this, but it's opened. I'm signing the transaction. Remember that this doesn't cost anything. Speaking in ethers or whatever, it's just Vocdoni tokens that you get for free in the development environment. And here it is. We have the election created. We can also check this in the Explorer. Here it is. That's the process that we just created, the election, which didn't already, it's not started yet. It will start in a few seconds. Right now, it's active. Okay, right now we can vote. And he will have that's our Explorer that we have. And if we go back to the UI, we can see here all the random wallets that we created. And we can just simply vote, for example, for option 2. We can see here, I don't know, maybe it's here I can zoom very good, not like my ID. We can see here the received votes the same way we did before, and the values of the different options. Right now we just voted for option 2, and here it is. Now we vote again with option 2. Remember that it takes some time because we have to wait for the transaction to be mined. That's the vote ID in order to prove that you voted and your vote is in the blockchain. here it is. We have two for option 2. Now we vote for option 1. And now MetaMask is not opening because we are using raw wallets from Ethers, which we have access to the private key. So signing, it's directly done without doing anything. Okay. But remember that the first person from the census was myself, was the account that I have in MetaMask. Okay. So if I vote for option 1 using my account from MetaMask, right now my MetaMask is open and it's asking me for signing the vote. Okay, so I'm signing it. And voted. And here it is. 2 persons voted for option 1 and 2 persons voted for option 2. And well, that's it. The first demo, it's for maybe for developers to see how to code with the SDK. But as you have seen, it's pretty very few lines of code to create an election and vote on it. And here is the more comprehensible UI in order to understand how to use the SDK. And everything is public. You can check it in GitHub. We have the, if you want to see it, here is the SDK, and here in examples we have a Create React app example and a TypeScript example. What you have seen here, this example here, is this one here. You can just simply clone the project and start it, and it will work exactly like here. And that's it, guys. Yep. Yeah. First question is right now when using MetaMask, we are only using MetaMask for signing some kind of transactions to our chain. Okay, so it's not important in which chain you are connected with MetaMask, because we are only using MetaMask in order to you to prove that you are the owner of that account by signing the transactions that we need. But these transactions are transactions that go to the blockchain, to our blockchain. So for example, right now I was connected to GoEarly, but I could also be connected to mainnet. It doesn't matter because any transaction will be related to some other chain that it's not our chain. Okay. And the second question is, yes, you will need Vocdoni tokens for lots of things, but not for voting. And that's one of the things why we are super specialized in voting, because in our chain for voting you don't need gas, and that opens that's like opening to people that doesn't have any kind of tokens of any chain in order to be able to vote, because our chain is gasless for voting, but not for creating an election, for example. Right now, if somebody wants to test the SDK, but just defining that you are in the development environment, you will receive tokens for free, because there are just tokens from the development environment. In the production environment, it works exactly the same. Exactly the same. The only difference is that you won't get free tokens just by creating an account. you will need to specify the moment when you create account. If you remember this moment, I'm gonna share the screen from the code again. Here in the create account method, as you can see, you can pass also a Faucet package. So if the only difference that exists between development environment and production environment is that you will have to define this Faucet package, which will be the package that gives you some amount of tokens in order to create elections and so on. But again, this is not needed for voting. So in production, you can vote without any kind of tokens of anything. I mean, neither Vocdoni tokens, neither ethers, neither nothing. I hope it clarifies the question. I don't know if maybe Ferran wants to add something here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anything you can ask me, I will be attending the Discord. So any question, just tag me and I will answer.